Chapter 40, The Academy Reformation. Marcus woke to the familiar sounds of his extended family preparing for another day in their academy-provided housing. But this morning carried a different energy. Tom was back from his magical training and the whole family had gathered in the common room to hear about his progress.
"Watch this, everyone,"
he said with barely contained excitement. He picked up a heavy wooden chair and held it above his head with one hand, his enhanced muscles barely straining.
"Master Edmund says I'm getting much better at controlling the enhancement magic."
Uncle Aldwin shook his head in amazement.
Never thought I'd see the day when one of us could lift furniture like it was made of feathers.
"It's not just about lifting heavy things,"
he explained, setting the chair down carefully.
"I can enhance my reflexes too. Watch."
He moved his hand in a quick series of defensive motions that seemed almost impossibly fast.
"And I can focus the enhancement to specific muscle groups instead of my whole body."
Aunt Mira looked worried.
Are you sure this is safe, Tom? All this magical training?
"Very safe, Aunt Mira,"
he replied with his characteristic earnestness.
"Master Edmund teaches us discipline first, power second. He says enhanced strength without enhanced judgment is just dangerous."
Sounds like wise instruction. And you're learning to read and write alongside the magic?
Tom's face reddened slightly.
"The reading's still harder than the magic, to be honest. But I'm getting better with Marcus's help."
We're all proud of you, Tom,
he said warmly.
You're proving that common people can excel at magical training just as well as nobles.
The family spent another pleasant hour discussing Tom's progress before Marcus needed to leave for his meeting with the academy faculty. The warmth of family support gave him confidence as he headed toward what could be a pivotal moment in Valdris educational history. The conference chamber in the Academy's administrative wing buzzed with the kind of nervous energy that preceded significant institutional changes. Master Timon had called a secret meeting with department heads, and Marcus found himself seated at a polished oak table surrounded by some of the most influential academic minds in the kingdom.
Distinguished colleagues, we face challenges that require us to fundamentally reconsider how we approach education in Valdris.
He began his voice, carrying the authority of nearly 2 centuries of leadership. Marcus surveyed the assembled faculty, Professor Edmund from Practical Arts Master Cornelius, representing Academy Administration Lady Genevieve from the Scribal Department, and Professor Thaddeus, the stern head of Magical Theory. Alice sat near Marcus, her scribal materials ready to document the proceedings.
The threats we face come not just from magical powers, but from the innovative application of knowledge that transcends traditional categories. Young Marcus of Millhaven has proposed an approach that could revolutionize our defensive capabilities.
Marcus felt all eyes turned to him, and he stood with the careful respect appropriate for such distinguished company.
Masters, what I propose is expanding academy enrollment to include common people, farmers, craftsmen, merchants, alongside traditional students from noble families or with magical affinities.
Professor Thaddeus immediately leaned forward, his expression skeptical.
Master Timon, with respect, the Academy's resources are already strained. We can barely provide adequate education for qualified magical students. How could we possibly accommodate common laborers?
That's the kind of thinking that limits our potential,
he replied, carefully but firmly.
In my experience, innovation often comes from people who understand practical applications rather than theoretical abstractions.
Marcus moved to the chamber's large slate board and began sketching diagrams.
Imagine if every village blacksmith understood basic engineering principles. They could improve agricultural tools, create better weapons, solve local infrastructure problems that currently require expensive academic consultations.
Lady Genevieve interjected.
Fascinating in theory, but we lack the faculty to teach such expanded programs. Our current staff is already committed to existing curricula.
He said, his voice carrying new urgency. He continued his enthusiasm building.
Engineering principles, advanced agricultural techniques, mathematical applications for commerce, basic medical knowledge for rural communities.
Marcus's innovations in printing and papermaking demonstrate this kind of practical application. Knowledge that benefits everyone, not just magical elites.
Professor Edmund nodded thoughtfully.
The Practical Arts Department has long advocated for more diverse enrollment. We see the creative potential in students from working backgrounds.
But Professor Thaddeus remained unconvinced.
The Academy exists to preserve and advance magical knowledge. Diluting our focus with soap-making and agricultural techniques undermines our fundamental mission.
Marcus felt his frustration rising, but kept his voice level.
Professor, with respect, magical knowledge alone won't defeat an enemy who combines magic with advanced technology. We need innovative thinking from every possible source.
Master Timon raised his hand for attention.
Marcus, would you please explain your specific proposals for curriculum integration?
Marcus returned to the slateboard, outlining a comprehensive plan he'd developed during his research.
Morning classes in practical skills, engineering, agriculture, commerce, basic medicine. Afternoon sessions in literacy, mathematics, and critical thinking. Evening workshops where magical and non-magical students collaborate on real-world problems.
The key is creating synergy. He emphasized,
magical students learn practical applications for their abilities. Common students contribute innovative perspectives that magical tradition might overlook.
Master Cornelius asked pragmatically.
What about resources? Housing, materials, instructor compensation?
Start small,
He replied.
A pilot program with maybe 40 students from diverse backgrounds. Measure results, refine approaches, expand gradually based on demonstrated success.
Alice raised her hand with obvious excitement.
I volunteer to help design the curriculum. The scribal department could develop educational materials specifically for this program.
The chamber fell quiet as the faculty considered the revolutionary implications of Marcus's proposal. Finally, Master Timon spoke with the weight of institutional authority.
I believe we should proceed with a limited trial program. Professor Edmund, you'll coordinate practical skills instruction. Lady Genevieve, please work with Alice on appropriate materials. Professor Thaddeus. The first third need your expertise in evaluating how this integrates with our magical education standards.
Professor Thaddeus looked displeased but nodded with professional compliance.
As you wish, Master Timon.
The meeting continued for another hour, working through practical details of implementation. When the session finally concluded, Marcus felt both exhilarated and exhausted by the scope of what they'd committed to undertaking. As the faculty dispersed, Alice approached Marcus with barely contained enthusiasm.
This could change everything. Not just academy education, but the entire relationship between knowledge and social class throughout the kingdom.
Let's hope it works.
He replied.
If we can demonstrate success here, maybe other institutions will adopt similar approaches.
They were interrupted by Sarah's arrival at the chamber entrance. She looked excited, but also carried an undercurrent of tension that Marcus was beginning to recognize.
Marcus, Alice, I heard about the meeting from Master Cornelius. Is it true about the expanded enrollment?
It is.
She confirmed warmly.
And Sarah, we were hoping you might be interested in being one of our first non-magical students.
Sarah's face lit up with genuine joy.
Really? You think I could succeed in formal academy classes?
Absolutely,
He said.
your mechanical intuition, your business insights, your collaborative skills. You'd be an ideal candidate for the program.
I would love that.
She said, her voice carrying hope and determination.
Learning engineering principles, formal mathematics, maybe even basic chemistry?
The kind of integrated approach we're developing.
He agreed. But Marcus noticed Sarah's excitement fade, slightly replaced by the troubled expression he'd seen at Aldrich's shop.
Sarah, is everything all right?
He asked.
Oh, it's wonderful news about the academy program.
She said quickly.
It's just other things happening that are more complicated.
Before Marcus could ask for details, they heard approaching footsteps and familiar voices echoing through the academy corridors. One voice was clearly Big Tom's distinctive boom, but he seemed to be struggling with something.
Trying to remember the difference between B and D is harder than carrying 2 grain sacks up a mountain.
He was saying to his literacy instructor.
Patience, Tom.
Came the gentle reply from Master Edmund, the Academy's adult education specialist.
Literacy development takes time, but your progress is remarkable.
His voice carried barely contained joy.
Marcus, how did your important meeting go?
He called cheerfully.
Well, cousin, how are your studies progressing?
He asked.
Reading and writing are challenging, but the fighting practices. Master Edmund says, I've got natural talent that's exceptional.
Master Edmund nodded with obvious pride.
Tom has demonstrated remarkable aptitude for combat applications of enhancement magic. His instinctive understanding of leverage, timing, and force application exceeds many students with years of formal training.
That's wonderful, Tom.
He said genuinely.
Remember what Master Timon said about controlling all aspects of your abilities?
I remember. Master Edmund's been teaching me discipline and strategy, not just hitting things harder,
He grinned.
though hitting things harder is satisfying too.
Their conversation was interrupted by another familiar voice approaching from the academy's main entrance. Aldrich's distinctive cadence carried clearly through the corridors, but his tone suggested unusual excitement.
Unprecedented opportunity for strategic advancement.
He was saying to someone Marcus couldn't yet see. Aldrich appeared moments later practically bouncing with enthusiasm, and accompanied by a well-dressed man Marcus didn't recognize. Aldrich's face glowed with the kind of joy that suggested life-changing news.
Marcus, Sarah, perfect timing. I have extraordinary news to share with everyone.
He called enthusiastically. Sarah's expression immediately became guarded, and Marcus felt the tension in the air shift noticeably.
What's the news, Aldrich?
He asked carefully.
Lord Brightmore's proposal has developed far beyond anything I imagined.
He said, his voice carrying barely contained excitement.
Not just business partnership, but potential joining of our houses through marriage.
Marcus saw Sarah's face go carefully blank, the kind of controlled expression that suggested emotional pain being deliberately suppressed.
Marriage?
She asked with polite curiosity.
Lord Brightmore is interested in Lara marrying into a successful merchant family. Our innovations, our growth potential, our strategic position in Drakmore's commercial district. He sees tremendous value in formal alliance.
Aldrich turned to Marcus with genuine gratitude.
And Marcus, your contributions made this possible. Without the soap business, the printing innovations, the academy connections, none of this would be happening.
Marcus felt conflicted. Aldrich's happiness was obvious and sincere, but Sarah's distress was equally clear to anyone paying attention. The personal dynamics were becoming as complex as the political challenges they faced.
That's significant news.
He said carefully.
Are you certain about Lord Brightmore's motivations? It seems like a substantial change from business partnership to marriage arrangements.
What makes it so valuable? What makes it so valuable?
He replied confidently.
This elevates our social position, secures our financial future, creates political connections that could benefit all our ventures.
Sarah, who had been silent during this exchange, finally spoke with carefully controlled emotion.
Congratulations, Aldrich. I'm sure Lara will be happy with such an advantageous arrangement.
Her tone was perfectly polite, but Marcus could hear the pain underneath. Alice, with her greater social sensitivity, seemed to recognize the situation immediately and moved closer to Sarah in a gesture of subtle support.
Well, if everyone's happy about it, that's good, right?
He said with his characteristic directness. Marcus realized that Tom, despite his loyalty and good intentions, completely missed the emotional complexity of what was happening. His cousin's enhanced strength didn't extend to reading social dynamics.
These are important decisions that deserve careful consideration,
he said diplomatically.
Aldrich, perhaps we could discuss the business implications privately later?
Of course, of course.
He agreed readily.
But Marcus, the opportunities this creates for expansion, for academy partnerships, for everything we've been working toward.
As Aldrich continued enthusiastically outlining his plans, Marcus noticed Sarah quietly excusing herself from the group. Alice caught his eye and gestured discreetly toward where Sarah was heading, toward the academy's garden areas where students often went for privacy. Later that evening, after the day's meetings and conversations had concluded, Marcus found himself once again in Master Timon's private chambers. The old wizard had requested a follow-up discussion about their previous revelations, and Marcus carried with him a list of questions that had been building since their last conversation.
Master Timon, I've been thinking about our discussion of Malachar and the electrical threat. I have questions about the broader situation.
He began settling into the familiar chair across from the wizard's desk.
Please proceed,
he said, his ancient eyes showing the keen interest that Marcus had learned to recognize.
First, about this world, about Valdris itself. What can you tell me about the planet, the magical systems, the history of conflict with threats like Malachar?
Master Timon leaned back in his chair, clearly settling in for a comprehensive discussion.
Valdris is ancient, Marcus, Our recorded history spans 3 millennia, and our oral tradition suggests civilizations that predate even that. Magic has always been present but rare. Perhaps 1 in 10,000 people possess any meaningful magical affinity.
And Malachar? How long has he been a threat?
What? He asked.
Malachar has been a presence in our world for nearly 2 centuries. He began as a minor territorial ruler who seemed to possess unusual knowledge and capabilities. Over time, he conquered neighboring kingdoms through a combination of magical power, technological innovation, and political manipulation.
Marcus felt a chill at the timeline.
2 centuries! That gives him so much leverage establishing power.
Indeed. And now I must ask you about your modern world. What can you tell me about the technological capabilities that might be available to someone with Malachar's apparent resources?
Marcus spent the next hour explaining modern industrial capabilities, communication systems, and potential military applications. Master Timon listened with the careful attention of someone trying to understand threats beyond his experience.
Master, I have to ask, why is no one actively trying to take down Malachar? In my world's stories, there are always fellowships, sisterhoods, radiants who band together against dark lords,
He said finally. Master Timon's expression grew heavy with old pain and disappointment.
I don't know about such groups in your world stories, but here in Valdris there have been numerous attempts. Military campaigns, special forces of mages and wizards, even coordinated efforts between multiple kingdoms.
What happened to them?
He asked.
Malachar always emerged victorious, either through sheer magical power or through political maneuvering. He has a talent for turning kingdoms against each other, for making alliances with whoever offers the best immediate advantage. Most of those kingdoms have now been swallowed by his expanding territory.
Master Timon's voice carried the weight of personal experience.
I learned my lesson through 3 separate missions against him. Success won't come from one devastating attack or heroic gesture. He must be taken down systematically with everyone working together, and frankly, I no longer have the energy for such an undertaking.
But you're willing to work with me on educational reforms and defensive preparations?
He asked.
Educational reform is different.
Master Timon replied.
That's about building long-term capabilities, creating the foundation for others to continue the work. It's sustainable in ways that direct confrontation has never proven to be.
As their conversation concluded, Marcus felt the weight of both worlds pressing down on him. The challenges were enormous, the timelines were urgent, and the stakes couldn't be higher. But he also felt the strength that came from having allies, from building relationships and capabilities that could endure beyond any single person's efforts. Success depended not just on innovations and strategies, but on maintaining the human connections that made everything else possible.